Hi, my name is Phil Mershon, and have I put you to sleep yet? Have I put you to sleep yet? So this presentation is called How to Create a Boring Event on Purpose. And you might be asking yourself, why would I ever want to teach someone how to create a boring event, or why would I want to learn how to create a boring event? Well, here's the truth. Thousands of people are being put to sleep right now at events all across the globe. And it's not happening on purpose. It's happening accidentally. People think they're creating a great event, but they're not. And you are here because you want to learn not how to create a boring event. Of course you don't. But you probably suspect that if you knew how to create a boring event on purpose, then you'd also know how to fix it. Well, I'm not going to teach you everything there is to know because you're going to go far beyond what I know. But I'm going to give you a few clues that are going to help lead you to ask the right questions about what is causing people to fall asleep at your event. Or worse yet, what is causing them to have a forgettable experience at your event? Like they forget all about it within days, weeks, or months, and it's made no difference in their lives. So that is what I mean by boring. It's having no impact. An unimpactful event might as well have not happened. That, to me, seems like a travesty. So let's go and talk a little bit more about this. I want to tell you about, in the summer of 2016, my wife and I went to two different movies about a week apart, and they could not have been more different. The first movie was The Lost City of Z, and if we were live together, I'd ask you if you've seen this movie. My guess is you have not. It was a great best-selling book. The movie, well, we'll talk about it. And then Star Wars came out with Rogue One. Definitely one of my favorite Star Wars movies. So let's talk about this a little bit. So my experience at the Lost City of Z is I was bored stiff. Now my wife went because the scenery is beautiful. Beautiful, no doubt. But I left the theater 5 times. I've never done that in all of my life. I have never left a theater 5 times. But I was daydreaming. I wanted to leave more. I just wanted to leave, period. But my wife was enjoying the scenery too much to leave. So I went to the bathroom twice. Only had to go once, but I went twice. I went and made a phone call. I went out and just walked around. I went and got some food. I was bored stiff. Now, in contrast, the Star Wars movie, I lost track of time. I would say that time stood still. I may have had to go to the bathroom. I might have, but I wasn't going to leave because that was too good of a movie and I did not want to miss any moment of that movie. My experience could not have been more different. And this isn't a diss on The Lost City of Z as much as it is that movie did not fit me. They did not keep me engaged. And I think many of our events do that. We don't attract the right people and we don't keep them engaged with our event. So what's the cost of this? I mean, what is the price of boredom? Well, here's the case. The Lost City of Z, they had about 1.9 million people attend. I think most of us would love 1.9 million people to show up to something we did, but maybe not if we put them to sleep. See, they budgeted $30 million and they only made $19 million. That means they lost $11 million. I don't think their investors were very happy. In contrast, Rogue One, 100 million people came. They budgeted $200 million and they made over $1 billion. That's 5x ROI, return on investment. I think every one of us and every investor in the world would love to make 5 times their money every time over. So there is a real cost or benefit on if we create a boring event or if we create an exciting, energizing, life-changing kind of event. So which experience do you want? Do you want to be forgettable or unforgettable? In the case of the bell curve, 80% of the events that we create and happen across the globe are completely forgettable. People aren't going to remember it. It might make a small little bit of a difference, but it really, in the grand scheme of life, is not something anyone will ever talk about. And I don't think any of us really want to be in that. Of course, we don't want to be in the left end of this curve where it is completely unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Something goes wrong. There's the homeless guy who shows up in the women's bathroom that happened at our event many years ago. And that's one of those that you would like to be able to forget, but you can't because the image now is stuck in your brain. I'm sorry to do that to you. And I feel bad for the guy. It's nothing against him. It's just Wrong place, wrong time, bad story, funny story, whatever you want to say about it. But on the other end of the extreme is you've got these unforgettable experiences that you've created that you're never going to forget, and it reminds you of good times. It reminds you when you decided to make some kind of change. Those are the kinds of events that we want to create. We want people talking about our event all year long so that they want to go next year and they want to tell our friends, you've got to go to that event because this is what happened for me and I know it can happen for you too, and I can't wait to see what they do next year. Are you in? Which one do you want to make? You want to create a forgettable event? Boring? Like, it might as well never have happened. Or something that is incredibly unforgettable. You want to repeat it over and over again. Well, I'm going to show you how to be totally forgettable and boring, but if you contrast these, you will figure out how to make an unforgettable positive event. So the first thing is, well, here are the steps. Here are the 25 steps. Now, first you got to figure out the memory formula. And it goes like this: f of x, a function. Do you remember your high school algebra or differential equations? Well, it's 5 times the customer experience times the user experience divided by, I don't even know what DI stands for. Does it? Well, and then you got to leverage cognitive neuropsychology. And about this time, you should hear a voice coming in, but you won't, saying, Phil, this is boring. We don't need 25 rules on how to create a memorable experience. In fact, unfortunately, so often at our events, that's exactly what happens, isn't it? People put up slides like this and they bore our audience to sleep, and they're usually worse, like it's a 5-point font and they're expecting you to read these graphs over and over. Well, that's not what we want. So here's some principles. I'm going to show you 5 principles of how to make a boring event and then how you could turn that around and make it an amazing event. The first one I call brick and mortar. Now, there's a house being built behind our house, so this is very personal to me right now. But have you ever seen a house built where they use bricks, but they don't cement the bricks together in any kind of way? Of course not. That would be the house that the wolf could blow down, right? And the 3 pigs, the 3 little pigs. Well, you don't want a house like that. It's got to be stuck together, and you want it to be able to last for generations. You want this to be something that sticks together. Well, unfortunately, at many events, and if you think about an event as bricks and mortar, bricks being the stuff that we create, the experiences, the parties that we create, the content that we create, all the main building blocks that make an event. And the mortar is the stuff that holds it together. It's the conversations in the hallway. It's that we're allowing time for breaks in between things. We're giving people time to breathe. It's the moments of yoga. It's the MCs. The MCs are not bricks. They are mortar. They are bringing together the pieces of the event, and they are, in a way, content weaving. So they're bringing all this together to build a tapestry or to build this beautiful wall that's going to hold together, and it's going to create this amazing event. So events that do this poorly stack all these bricks together, and it's really tightly formed. They're trying to squeeze as many things in there as they possibly can, and there's nothing that's holding it together for people in their minds and their relationships. Great events, in contrast, know how to hold those bricks together by creating space in the hallways and encouraging the right kinds of conversations to take place, knowing what people's biological needs are, knowing what their emotional needs are, knowing what they really came for, and making sure to serve those things to them at the right time. The pacing is good. There's a good energy about the event. All these things work to cure the event, to create that mortar and give it time to solidify before they add on another brick and another brick. You get what I'm saying? It's not the Pink Floyd song. It's not another brick in the wall. We're talking about building bricks on purpose that create a wall, that create a force, that create a power to change people's lives. Are you with me? All right, next. I had this funny thought. I went through the line at Chick-fil-A, and no matter what you think about Chick-fil-A, please listen to this. This isn't about endorsing Chick-fil-A or not endorsing Chick-fil-A. This is about an experience. So I find when I go to Chick-fil-A that there's always someone that serves me that says the phrase, my pleasure. Just as an aside, I was told that if you say my pleasure before they do, that they're supposed to give you a free meal. It's not true. They don't do that. No one has taught them to do that. That is a rumor. Snopes should sniff that out. But anyway, they said they are trained to say my pleasure. And it's not about the phrase, it's about the attitude that's behind the phrase. They are there to serve you, and they delight in serving you. And over time, as you say that, you do become more friendly. You become more delighted. You become more focused on serving the needs of that person. So I had this funny thought. Well, what would happen if Chick-fil-A trained all of their employees to say, whatever? Try to say that with a smile. Whatever. You can't do it. Likewise, you can't say, my pleasure, without kind of smiling. So I think it would drastically change the culture, make them pretty much like every other fast food restaurant in America, where most people are indifferent when they're working there. They can't wait to get off the clock. And I'm not saying Chick-fil-A employees can't wait to get off the clock either. They probably can't. But there is something different that is created by the way that you train people. And so at your event, how do your staff act? How are they serving other people? Are they there for themselves? Are they attentive? Are they paying attention? I find when we hire people who aren't invested in our event to help us run our event, the culture changes and we get a whatever crowd instead of a my pleasure crowd. So think about your staffing. How are they acting? How are your MCs acting? How are your speakers acting? Are they invested? Do they want to be there? Do they show it in their face? Are they greeting people? Are they looking them in the eye? This makes an enormous difference. Next, crowd control or conversation. So I can't forget going to an event. It was a large event, and one of the keynotes happened, and it was a particularly insightful and thought-provoking keynote. I couldn't wait to talk to the people I was sitting with about something that had been said. But unfortunately, as soon as the session was over, the AV team had been instructed to crank up some rock song, and it was loud. I mean, it was very loud. In fact, it was so loud that it pushed all those thoughts out of my brain, like the picture of the Spinal Tap, where they turned it up to 11 and my head was blasted to my seat, and I forgot those thoughts. In fact, I didn't want to talk to anyone anymore. I wanted to get out of there. I was like the picture on the left here, where these people are all flocking out of a session or a concert or doing something, instead of what would have happened if they would have given a moment, just even a couple of minutes before they started ushering people out to say, we know people want to sit and talk. They want to linger with that thought, have a moment to write it down, to take some kind of action. Do we create those moments within our event where we allow people, especially the internal processors, especially those who you even maybe need to verbally process something, do we create space for those significant thoughts to get stuck in our brain? Going back to the brick and mortar, this is part of the mortar. If you don't give space for people to take those thoughts and take action and process it, then you're going to drive them out and they will be less changed than if you could do that. Next, are you listening to your customers or are you designing an event for yourself? I'm a jazz saxophonist, and for the first 7 years of our conference, I played jazz with a band as people walked into our keynote sessions. Now, after a couple of years, people thought it was cute. They thought it was fun. They loved that I'm a musician in addition to all the other things that I do. But after a while, people started to think, well, this music's great. It's not really my music. That's the kind of music that you listen to on an elevator. And so I said, well, let's just pump it up. Let's just make it a little bit more energetic. Well, that still wasn't exactly what they're talking about. That's just more contemporary jazz, which I happen to absolutely love. And I wonder why anyone else doesn't. But it turns out probably only about 20% of an audience loves jazz. Probably there's another 20 to 40% who are maybe indifferent, but there was a significant number who really don't like it, and they stayed out. So I started listening, and I said, well, we know who our audience is. We know it's a woman. We know she's in her 30s or 40s, maybe early 50s. She's from North America, and more than likely then she's listening to pop and rock from the 80s and 90s. So we redesigned the set list. I hired a band who had a lead singer who could play, and then we played that kind of music as people walked in. And you can see here the vibe is completely different, the picture on the right, where it's a rock band, and they let me play, but we weren't playing jazz. We were playing rock songs. We were playing top 40 type songs. We were playing Southern California beach songs, and I played when I could. And that completely changed it. Now, what am I saying here? I was originally designing an event based on what I could do and what I enjoyed, but we switched and said, well, what does our audience care about? What do they want? And I think the danger for many of us as event planners and event leaders is to design an event that we would like. And in the process, we put our audience to sleep because they could care less about some of the things that we love and delight in. So that could be our color schemes. That could be the way that we lay the seating out. That could be the way that we design the schedule. Are we asking? Are you spending time asking your customers what they like, what they enjoy? My guess is you're maybe not as much as you could. I know I don't as much as I could. And so I end up planning something that I think they'll like, but I don't know. I'm hoping. So if you want to bore them, then plan an event that's for you and not for them. But if you want to truly inspire them, get to know your audience really well and design an event for them that they are going to love and that they are going to tell their friends about. That's going to set you up for success. All right, so I'm going to end with a tale of two gumbos. I love gumbo. I don't know about you, but I love Cajun food. I got exposed to it when I was in college on a tour down in Louisiana, and this church brought out this big vat of jambalaya, and it was amazing. So I fell in love. So when they opened a Cajun restaurant in Wichita, where I'm from, I couldn't wait to go try it out. Well, the experience was, let's just say, not amazing. So you can see it on the left here is a pot of gumbo. It's messy. It looks kind of like, I'm not sure what's in there. Well, when they brought out our gumbo at this restaurant, that's what it felt like. It was like, is that gumbo? And as we ate it, we realized there wasn't really any meat in it. It was mostly broth, a little bit of rice, and it wasn't very spicy. And to make it worse, it was lukewarm. It wasn't even hot. I wanted to spit it out. So many events are like that. We build up the expectation. Our marketing is great. We have great visuals. We have great promises. And then people come. It's like, I was expecting this gumbo on the right. That gumbo I remember that was so amazing when I had it. I know it's possible, but instead we give them the gumbo on the left, something that's just not thoroughly thought out. It's made for the masses, but it's not thoughtfully created. And I want to encourage you in your events, if you want to bore people, make the gumbo on the left. Make it bleh, something they're going to forget about. Hopefully they don't complain. I'm not going to complain about this restaurant. I am to you because you're an event planner. But I'm not telling you the name of this restaurant on purpose because I hope they change their ways and I hope they actually end up becoming a great restaurant. Now, my goal is to help us think about how do we create events that are like the great bowl of gumbo or whatever food you like. Put that in your brain and say, how do I create that time after time after time? My name is Phil Mershon. It's been my pleasure to share this with you. I'm in the process of writing a book. It's called, the working title is Unforgettable, The Art and Science of Creating Memorable Experiences. You can reach out to me via email. I'll send you a chapter of it. You can also reach out on any of the socials. I would love to get to know you. And with that, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the event.